Among luxury brands, detailed logos seem to be becoming more and more popular once again. And of course, some luxury brands never stopped including a high level of detail. Now, I've been creating quite detailed logos for a while now, successfully, and there's a real art to doing this the right way, and there are some dangers you definitely need to avoid. So of course this needs to be done the right way, considering the various situations a logo might need to be used in. This is a great example on the screen now. This is literally fabricating that logo out of metal sheets. So you can imagine the thought that needs to go into ensuring this can come out as intended. But it shows that it's possible to use a higher level of detail if you go about that the right way. And here are a few examples of brands I've worked on, and we've successfully included quite a high level of detail. But as you can see, they work in various situations. The advantage of this is when you're able to show the logo in its full detail at quite a large size, it really has some added visual impact. This was a rich version of a brand mark we created that was able to be gold foil stamped on portfolio covers and things like that. And this here is definitely the most detailed, complex logo I've ever attempted to create. Before you start commenting, yes, technically, this example here, this isn't a standard logo. So this was a special rich version of a logo created for a brand. And we call it a rich version because, you certainly couldn't use this with this level of detail everywhere. However, because, as you'll see here, it's part of an identity system, you've created something appropriate that can be used in each situation. So you'll notice the monogram, the TS, that carries through. If it's able to be used in this kind of rich context, amazing. Think of the impact that has. You purchase a product and this comes engraved on the packaging, absolutely incredible. But the core is still there. You've got the monogram, you've got the logo type, and there's a whole system created around that. So what is the correct way to do this? Well, firstly, to even consider using this level of complexity, you have to use an identity system. And this is an approach not uncommon to web designers. As web designers, we have to accept that while someone might come along with a huge 4K desktop, and we want them to have a great experience visiting a site, we also have to cater to a majority of visitors on phones. So those different visitors will be looking at the same website, often the same content, but there's a different approach needed for presenting each. So with brand identity design, it's the same. The same content, the same logo may be looked at in a very wide range of different situations. So many big brands actually already do this, but often behind the scenes. So here's an example of brand guidelines I was given access to do some work for Formula One. And as you can see, it's something all brands will consider. A version of a logo you'd use at standard scale, at large scale, at micro scale. So in this case, those are near identical. As you look between them, although the spacing is different and some of the finer details, it feels like you're looking at exactly the same version of a logo. Here's another example here. These are the guidelines Slack uses. But you'll notice a difference here when we get down to a really small size. They no longer include all of the same elements. So we actually lose the logo type for Slack, and instead we're just using a symbol. So taking the kind of essence of that approach, if we apply this now to the brand I worked on the right hand side, we have kind of that same approach. So elements reducing, but the same core. So we have that same core monogram, we have logo type, and then we have just the silhouette of this shape to surround the logo type. But the difference here, and something I think works particularly well and worked well in practice for this brand, is actually taking it up a level and creating this rich version you can see to the left. So there's only going to be certain situations it's appropriate to use that, but I feel it's still worth having for those situations where you can. Now, unfortunately, not everybody gets this right, and there are some quite poor examples out there of very detailed logos where a designer has executed this the wrong way. These are logos that will just never work at very small sizes. But if you understand our sequence of cognition, so this is the way we process visual information, it's possible to ensure there are always components that carry through, no matter what size you're looking at, the same version of the logo. So you can see that on the screen now. To the left, you perhaps notice, first things you notice are probably the logo type, the L letter mark, and then because of the size, you may pick out the details. So the fact there are two lions, that kind of background artwork, you might be able to read the text surrounding that emblem. At the center size, probably can't pick out the lions. You're probably just seeing the shape and form of that, but you can still clearly read the logo type. You still see that L letter mark. You may still be able to read the surrounding text. And then at a very small size, you're not going to be able to see what that background artwork is. You can't pick out that's a lion, but that's okay, because you're still seeing the L, the logo type, so the recognition is still there. And in certain situations, it's like you have an onion skin approach. You get the bonus of that extra detail, which adds something, but it still works even if you can't pick that detail out. And just to illustrate the way this works in terms of what our brain processes first, the first thing we tend to notice is the overall shape. So not the detail, not the word, the text itself, but just the shape, the symbol. So this is why a brand mark is so powerful. It's the first thing your brain tends to process and recognize, the kind of larger overall shape and form. Next thing you process is color. That's why color choice is so powerful. So this is the next thing. If we kind of put your brain in super slow motion, you would first process this, then this together with color. Then lastly, you start to pick out some of the finer details. So this is where your logo type, actual recognition of the name, of the wording comes in. And then finally, all of the detail, including fine detail. So understanding that sequence, the way our brains work is vital to making sure you're not confusing with a logo, that it's clearly identifiable and successfully adding a richer level of detail. So if this is something that excites you, if you look at these kind of detailed logos and you think, yes, this is the kind of thing I want, but I need it to be done the right way, you can't expect to get that right within a short 10-minute video. But I do teach a class going through the correct way to do this stage by stage in detail. So I've included the link in the description. Check that class out if you'd like to learn more. Or if you'd prefer someone to do that for you, obviously that's a service I can provide. So feel free to reach out, get in touch if a detailed logo is something you feel might be right for your brand. So I hope you found this helpful. It's a little taste of the kind of challenges of creating something that's more detailed but beautiful, and if it's done the right way, very useful. So as always, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already, and hopefully I'll see you in future content.